welcome to Good to Know Shreveport Bossier, a podcast showcasing the good things happening in our community. My name is Jeff Beinfor. This is Paul Reeser, former president of the Reeser Group, the Sonic Management Company, and a member of the Committee of 100, where he's a board member. And every week, we're going to be focusing on economic development, community growth, and other topics about initiatives that are having a positive impact on our community. We'll have new episodes every other Wednesday, and you can find Good to Know wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, let me introduce our guest today. This is Dr. Jerome Cox. Thanks for being here, Dr.
Pleasure,
Cox.
sir. Absolutely.
It's our pleasure to have you. And man, you are into so many things. I can't even read your bio. It's like a sheet long, single spaced.
It is remarkable.
It really is. So kind of give us a rundown of...
So I got to meet you, yes, well, we've known each other for a while, but really to kind of find out about your background. I think the exciting thing is on our podcast, we have people that are bringing in large industries, you know, talk about the port, and we talk about Cyber Command, but it's exciting to have a person that can just bring experience and hard work and start small businesses, but not just one. You have started a whole list of great businesses. So I guess let's talk about what you're doing now and kind of how you got there.
Well, it's exciting. I've been married for a long time, almost 35 years. I have my wife, Linda Precious. We have 4 sons. And I'm proud of those kids because they've all been able to finish school. I come from humble beginnings. I really do, humble beginnings. So blessed to have a mother who's 83 years old, Mark Cox. Love you, Mom.
She'll be watching.
She's such a gift. But entrepreneurship was always a big part of what we wanted to do as we grew into business. And one of the things we were big on is serving. We had a chance to serve our community. I served in the armed forces. I'm a United States Army Airborne Ranger. I'm proud of that. A lot of hard work goes into that. But it taught me a lot about discipline. And, you get kind of hungry when you come from those meager beginnings that I've come from. I have 7 brothers and 1 sister.
Wow.
We come from a single family home. It's quite an interesting story, but
well, when people introduce you now, they say this is Dr. Cox. He owns St. Mark Hospice.
Correct.
And so you're in hospice.
That's correct.
And we're like, oh, he's a doctor, and you're so well spoken. It's hard to imagine that you came from, a really, really poor background, poor beginning. 7 kids, is it 7 or 8 kids?
It's 8 kids, 7 boys, 1 girl, 1 mom, single mom.
Went to school hungry.
Yes, sir.
How did you decide to go from that to get into the Air Force? The Army, became a Ranger, highly decorated?
Well, one of the things we were schooling, we knew education would always be a key factor to trying to get out of poverty. It's an essential ingredients to that. And of course my faith. My mom is a very strong faith woman, so God was always huge. But we learned early on that we needed to get the schooling out. And so I got a chance to go to Northwestern State University, graduated there with an industrial technology degree, and from there I joined the ROTC. We did that basically because we needed money for school, and then of course I had 3 jobs, and I remember our sophomore year in college I actually went to airborne school, which is rarely done.
Really?
They don't even do that anymore, but we were able to go during the summer and complete that training. And came back, and so after I graduated, I really was interested in working in the contracting field. I became a contractor, and we were into building bridges. And all of a sudden I get a letter in the mail saying, congratulations, you've been accepted to active duty. We'll see you in a few months. So I was young, just married, I had a young son, and my wife and I moved to Virginia to pursue our military career. I was a part of the quartermasters. That's a logistical organization. They're beautiful. And from there on, graduated from that and got prepared to train for heading to Ranger, and I became a rigger using that time to get in shape.
What's a rigger?
That's a guy who packs parachutes.
Okay.
You pack the parachutes for our jumpers, and it was pretty exciting. It's rare. I didn't even realize there were people that did that in the Army until I was stationed there at Fort Lee, Virginia, and they have a whole school there. And so I decided to become a part of that. And
you can't make a mistake when you're doing that.
Yeah,
you're not allowed. There's no mistakes.
No mistakes, guys. You got to do it right. 0 mistakes. Keep in mind, though, there is a reserve parachute that's on those guys. However, we had packed that too. So.
I was gonna say, that's right. That's where I was going next.
So yeah, you're right. So, but it's exciting. So we left from there and went on to Ranger training, and the rest is history. Started my career. Of course, I served in Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Well, I know you're highly decorated. We don't need to go through all your stars and medals, but you have a license plate.
Yes, that was pretty unique. Matter of fact, Governor Edwards, he is also an Army Ranger. And it was kind of him, my brother Kenny Ray Cox is Lieutenant Colonel Cox. He's the state representative.
From Natchitoches?
Yes, that's my oldest brother. Yeah, Kenny's my oldest brother.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were, okay.
Yeah, that's my oldest brother. So Kenny, I said, Kenny, I went to pick up a license plate from the Department of Vehicles, Motor Vehicles, and there was no Ranger license plate. He said, it's impossible. We went through the book, and the lady said, believe it or not, we don't have one. I said, well, how do you get one? And she said, you have to get a legislator to do a bill. So I happened to know this legislator. So I spoke to Kenny, and he authored a bill, and when it got approved unanimously, and then the license plates for Rangers for the first time in Louisiana, it was issued out. And my hat's off to Governor Edwards because he chose to let me have the first license plate as opposed to him. I told him this, so I owe him a big one. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was neat, and I actually got to go to the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they presented the plates there. It was pretty a monumental occasion.
That's remarkable. It speaks to your connections, your charisma, your leadership, and just how much you're respected and appreciated for the governor to say, yeah, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to get you.
Well, look, we got sitting right in front of us here, we have these bottles of honey.
Yeah.
It's local honey. Be Good Brothers, it says on there. Tell us, this is some of the stuff you're into.
This is some of the stuff we do. I have 4 sons, and I was observing them on a Sunday. We do Sunday dinners at our home, and they were getting along so well. I asked them, what are we going to name our bee company guys? And they were like, and we came up with Be Good Brothers because they're good to one another. They're good brothers, and we call it Be Good Brothers. And the motto is, I am my bee's keeper. And what's unique about this, my son George is kind of the author of this because he got into this, and it's become a really unique process. We actually process honey. We provide some of the honey for some of the energy drinks with an organization we work with, and but it was a byproduct. We were really getting in this to be pollinators, and so it's been pretty a lot of fun. It's we're growing in it. We're learning every day, but it's pretty unique because it's really rare, and the honey is pretty good.
I got to tell you, you're the first person I've ever met that said we're into bees. we're into bees. I mean, how unique!
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the ecosystem, the bees play a vital role in our ecosystem.
That's true.
Without them, we're in big trouble.
Well, just the progression of all the different businesses, just because you continue to say yes. So, how did you get into the hospice? Because I know you were into real estate, you were working with a funeral director.
Right.
I know these things just because I've known you for a long time, and then I find out you also do all these things. But how did you get into hospice? Because
well, I'll tell you, my brother Tony Cox passed away at the age of 37, and I was so broken by that experience that I wanted to give back. I wanted to do something that wasn't selfish, because everything you do a lot of the times, when you're young, you're building your businesses, you're growing with your families, you're just trying to be the best version of yourself you can be. But the reality is sometimes we neglect to give back, in a sense, to help other people to come up. And when my brother passed away, he had thousands of people at his funeral. He was a DARE officer. He graduated from Louisiana Tech, top of his class, and chose to be a DARE officer, a police officer, sheriff. And that was a big decision, but it was just beautiful to see what kind of legacy he left behind. He has 4 beautiful children. They're all doing well. And from that experience, I decided I want to start volunteering. And I just so happened to be working with some hospice folks, and they asked, well, hey, why don't you come and volunteer with us? So I actually started going out volunteering. Like I would go out, read Bible, take people places, and all that. And before you know it, I was working in the capacity as a chaplain with them and all of that. And then all of a sudden, what came out to be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I was working just about every day giving back to this organization. It was bought out by another organization, and all of a sudden, we grew from that to become a pretty massive organization in in Louisiana. And
how hard is that? Is that hard to work in hospice?
It's a tough work. We founded St. Mark Hospice and Palliative Care, which is doing very well. I named it after Mark Akins, which is one of my very, very best friends in this world. He passed away in a car accident. And hospice is one of the unique processes of taking a holistic approach, meaning you got chaplains, social workers, nurses, CNAs, physicians, nurse practitioners, volunteers. They're all engaged in this process of helping one transition from this life to the next life, the afterlife. And it's an honor. And I believe that people should be, it's almost like you ought to be chosen for that work, because you never get a chance to make a mistake, because you get one chance to get it right. So I always tell people who work with me in this industry, you have to do it right the first time, guys, because
it's kind of like packing a parachute, huh?
That's correct.
You got to get it right the first time.
You got to get it right the first time. Good point. And so from that, you grow and you learn. You become a part of these folks' family. You become to nurture them and love on them, and it's a beautiful, beautiful ministry.
Well,
and I'm honored to be a part.
In the life situation, and my mother went through hospice, so we had no idea what to do. And all of a sudden, as we're at this horrible situation, you're trying to, what do we even do next? How do we help her in her pain? How do we help her? These angels come into your house.
Yes.
And they take the fear away from you. They take the pain away from your loved one. So I would imagine that is, every time I've seen different hospice situations, I'm like, this person is an angel. They just have such compassion. And so I salute you for doing that as a volunteer. And then to get into that business, it definitely has to be a calling, I would imagine, as a job.
And what's beautiful is all of my sons and my wife all work with me in that business as well. Matter of fact, 3 of my sons are nurses. So it's a real gift. It's a real honor to work with those young men.
That's a unique way and unique viewpoint you have in terms of doing this work. I think. I do salute. I salute you as well. Yes, sir. It's pretty impressive.
It's ministry at its best. I feel like if you can be humble enough to serve in that capacity and give all that you have, all of you, to help someone that's going through that process, it is a beautiful thing. And it's love. I say it's love at its pinnacle. It really is.
I'm also reading here that you've created over 1,000 jobs around here.
Yeah. We've the good news is we have several businesses. Good Lord, we've got home care businesses, we've got background checks, we've got oh my goodness, it's just a lot. Real estate, different things, and we've been able to really create a lot of jobs. And the reason we're into that, because I have 4 sons that were growing up here in Shreveport, Louisiana, and we were losing our children going to other states and other places.
That's still happening, by the way.
Because they were wanting better jobs, more money, and so I thought it was important for us to try to do what we can do here to especially keep it started off by just trying to keep my sons here. And before you know it, it grew into something that was beautiful for the city as a whole. And it's been a real honor. I'm humbled to be able to have done such a thing, and I'm very grateful and very thankful to this community for embracing us in that way.
What is that like, building a business in Shreveport? Because you're not originally from here. You say you went to school in Natchitoches, but you've come to Shreveport to build a business, which has become a string of businesses. So what's it like doing business in this community? Why did you choose this area?
I think Shreveport is like the 3rd largest city in Louisiana. It has a great infrastructure. It has some great platforms in which you can launch a business from. And my theory is, if what I learned here is that I worked really well with city councils and commissions and all of that. So I learned to navigate the process and forge some really wonderful relationships with people over the years that could help us to perpetuate even other businesses to get us where we wanted to be. But our goal was about trying to help others do better And in that effort, wow, I'm almost amazed of how it's grown like this. And now my sons they're grown men, and they're now moving on and beginning to start their families. And this place, it's not a foreign land to us, it's home. And we're doing all we can to make this home a place where others can call home. Because Shreveport is a beautiful place. It has great resources. We just have to capture them and take advantage of what it is. But it really boils down to relationships.
Sitting here talking to you, I would think any place where you are would be a beautiful place to you. That's just your attitude on life.
You know, I think we have to remain positive in whatever we do. And we've had some challenging times here, but at the end of the day, it's really up to us to take the next step.
Right.
We must be what I call economic engine drivers for the community.
Yeah.
Well, you're so encouraging because I met you before, and you're very distinguished, kind of quiet guy in the corner. They usually call on you to do the prayer.
Yes, sir.
And then I go to your office and I'm like, man, what in the world are you into? And you're like, everything. But some of it is from just, I think it's encouraging that you'll have your business and then you find a need. And if you have a challenge getting it, you just create a business for it. Like,
That's correct.
your background check.
Right.
Tell me about the background check business.
Well, we were paying thousands of dollars to do background checks. And so I asked my son, Ryan, I said, how can we better this situation and minimize cost? And so he started researching, him and Adam, and they were looking into it. And before you know it, DataQuest Research and Investigative Services came alive. And
that's the name of your company. You say that slowly.
DataQuest Research and Investigative Services. Yeah,
it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it really is. We ended up going to the state, becoming certified and all of that to do the background checks. And of course, the legislature laws change, and so you have to go through a certified company nowadays.
So who do you do background checks for?
Lord, we do for.
Well, that was the neat thing. You did it for yourself.
Yeah,
like we're just going to save money.
That's all we was interested in.
And you become certified, and suddenly the laws change, and now everyone has to come to you because you're one of the few certified background checkers.
There's a lot of so those companies and myself got involved. So we've done it. We do Southern University, the universities. We do hospitals. You name it, we can do it. And it is just, it kind of got out of control there because we were like, this was not our intent. But I've always learned that if you do things that help mankind, you're going to benefit. If you do things that can solve problems, you're going to be the benefactor of it. I've never done very well when I sit down and brainstorm about, we're going to start this business and we're going to make a lot of money. It never worked for me. But if I meet a need, it has always been a game changer.
An opportunity meets preparation.
Absolutely,
something like that.
That's correct. Yeah. It's been a game changer in a good way, So people go, well, how do you manage? How did you do the success? It's simple. Just try meeting needs and solving problems. That's your answer.
Wow.
Well, and when you talk about the meeting needs and solving problems, I know that kind of your passion project. Now that you've become so successful, but you come from such humble beginnings. Now I know that you're involved in some different things to try to pass that along and help the community. So what are some of your passion projects, things you're doing to help
I've served as chairman of United Way. I've served as chairman of the Strategic Action Council. Shreveport Boulder Rescue Mission, served as chairman of that. I'm a part of the Red Cross, the Boy Scouts of America. I've been a part of the Fulton, it wasn't called Fulton back then, it was called the Habitat for Humanity.
Oh. Okay, yeah.
And all of that. So I've worked with Southern University. We put together a incubator to help with food trucks, culinary, and all of this.
Where do you find time to harvest the honey?
There's only 24 hours in a day, right?
The good news is I have 4 sons, and they're committed to the process.
That's cool. Your first thing you were passionate about was keeping your kids here, which is something we all need to do. Not need to do, but I think it's great, and the reason we're highlighting the good things in our community is to give people hope to stay here, that the hope that there is a brighter future, and there's a pretty good future now.
How do you see that, by the way? You talked about you wanted to keep your sons at home, you want to try to create an atmosphere where people can stay in the state, not go out of state and seek better jobs, more money, etc. And we know that there's still an out-migration problem in Louisiana.
Correct.
The things that you're doing will probably help to assuage some of that, but do you see that on a more macro scale? Do you see that changing in Louisiana?
It has to change. It's kind of like sometime in life, we don't have a choice. We have to make the transition. And I think in order to save this incredible state that we live in, we've all have to play a role. And believe it or not, if we all took our part in this and we collaborated together as a group, and we all just said, here's the goal, we have to unite. If we unite, we're so much stronger together. And if we unite, if we're not caught up in black, white, this religion, that religion, and if we unite as a people, there's nothing but growth and good things are going to happen from that. But we've got to be willing, and we've got to be committed, and we've got to be steadfast and say, hey, look, no matter what, I'm going to fight this fight. And if we stay convinced of that and we reach out to our other colleagues and families, that's what's so beautiful about Committee of 100. You have these influential people that are getting together, and what we have to learn, though, we have to get to the grassroots of the problem. Yeah. We've got to get down to the basics. We can't solve these issues by just throwing money at it. We've got to solve it by engaging with the people who are there on the ground level. And that's what I found my greatest success has been working with people on the ground level, getting out with them and asking them. For instance, in my business, I go out, I don't ask my administrative team and staff what would make us better and change and be more productive. I go to the ground level folks and say, hey, what do you think we can do better here to make, and they are honest about it. Yeah. They will tell you the truth. And they will lay it out for you. And so what you do, you take that information, you don't bottle it up. No, you put it into action and you begin to formulate a positive method of change. And when you do that, guess what? Things get better. Wow. That's just the law of the land. If you're willing to do that, but we as an organization, as a people, as a community, if we would just come together in that aspect, we could change this trajectory overnight. Absolutely. And I believe that with all of my heart.
Amazing what people can do when they come together.
Absolutely.
Do you think there's too much of that attitude of just throw some money at it and then turn around and walk away?
I think so. I think, let me give you an example. Gosh, I was in a meeting and we were talking about resources and moving monies to do this and that. And Curtis Joseph brought up the fact that we want to take some kids to watch a movie. And the King Richard. And
that's a good movie, Joe.
It's a really good movie.
I've not seen it, but I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Great movie. Yeah. And we were talking about, we could do this and do that. Here's the thing that I want to point out. When you come from a place of nothing, where you have no money, and there's no money, there's no jobs, the schooling, education, you're in a place where the education isn't that great. What do you have left if you're here? And I'm not talking, there's levels to this thing. What happens if you're here? If you're that person here, let me tell you what you have, that you bank everything you got on, is faith and hope. And without faith and hope, you don't see your way out of it. Right. But first of all, you have to have faith enough, and then you have to have hope. And I believe we've underestimated the power of hope. Because I'm telling you, hope was the invisible strand of faith that pulled me and my family out of the grips of degradation. I'm telling you, it was my mother's prayer. It was hope, because when you don't have anything else, what do you have? Yeah, other than hope.
That's interesting, and this is this is a stretch, this story, but I'm a comic book superhero fan, dude. Yes, and so this latest Batman movie that came out, a lot of people thought it was great. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I hated it. It was dark, and it was just. And all my friends go, well, why don't you like it? Because they all thought it was cool. And I went, there's no hope in this movie. There's no positivity whatsoever. It's just dark, and it just felt like it's going to stay that way,
That's right.
It was uncomfortable to watch it. And so I quit watching it. But I think hope is a very
powerful. We talk about hope and motivation. One guy says, well, you talk about hope and motivation. Well, I look at it like taking a bath. If you stop taking a bath, you begin to stink. You gotta have hope. You gotta believe. And when you're there, if you're that person, if you've ever been there, there's nothing like a grandmother that comes to you and say, it's going to be all right because I believe in you. Or a teacher that gives you that moment. It's a game changer. I remember Mr. Murray told me once that he believed in me and that I could do this because I was afraid of getting in front of people. I didn't like to talk because I had a problem with my tongue. I had to have this thing cut because I couldn't speak very well. I always twisted my words up and stuttered, and I was always ashamed and afraid. And I remember getting out of that shell. He helped me come out, and he gave me a voice. He gave me the voice, and I love him to this day. He's nearly 100 years old.
Wow.
Still doing fine. Mr. Murray, Roy Murray is his name, wonderful man, but he gave me hope. He believed in me.
Right.
And that's sometimes all we need is someone to believe in us, because the belief turns into this measure of productivity that forces us to, it's like a guy that's in a big, deep well, and you just do all you can to get out, but sooner or later someone has to throw you a rope.
Well, people underestimate the influence and power that a great teacher can have, a
Right.
great coach, and a great businessman who has come from nothing. I mean, you should not have. You told me yesterday, you said, I should not have
I'm not
achieved
supposed to be
anything,
here.
you know?
No, sir, not
but you
supposed to
have,
be
so you're
here.
an example. But now it's hard to people to see, how can I make that leap to go from a horrible beginning to where you are now? It's hard for people to see that leap. So you talk about hope, but you also, I know you're creating the legacy retreats.
Right.
Which you're super excited about. Got me excited about it, to help meet those kids where they're at.
Yeah,
What does that look like?
The goal is,
And I just keep going because you're so impressive, man.
No,
but everyone needs to do their part, but you've done the part of like 100 people.
well, let me say this. One of the things that I tell my sons consistently, and I said to you on yesterday, one of the things that I've learned, that as you are elevated, the one thing you need to never, ever forget is to be draped in humility. I believe there's a place for humility in everything that we do. So folks will say, well, I've not heard of this guy. Well, I'm not interested in being heard or known. That's not my goal. My goal is to be the caveman that does the work behind the scene, because at the end of the day, the accolades really don't matter. It's what we do in the long run that's going to hold up when we're long gone. So that's why legacy retreat has become something huge for us, because out there we've got, this is insane, but we've got chickens. We provide about nearly 1,000 eggs a month to Christian services. We give them to them. We have the honeybees that are doing what they do out there, and as well as we have these hoops that we've created to create aquaponic and hydroponic grow fish and all of this. We're into that, and we're learning more and more about the process. We've got stables where we have animals and gardens and things like that, where we want to, and then we have a place where you can come out and we can train children. It's like an institute. And then there's places where they can also stay there. We got kitchens for culinary and all of that. And our goal there is to try to introduce our children that can come in and visit with us. And all of this is, we're about 80% done. And our goal is to bring children who hadn't had the experience, disadvantaged or advantaged, it really doesn't matter, people that just haven't had a chance to know what it's like. We want to expose them to this. We just want exposure, because there's things that I got introduced to that I was like, wow, I never heard of that. When you go in the military, you get to go overseas and you see other cultures, and the way they do things are so unique. And so I was just like, if we could just create a small incubator, a small moment where we can share with people, especially these children, who knows, think about it. We want to reach the masses, but I'm just one person, and we've touched thousands and thousands of lives. Thank God, it doesn't take a lot. You don't know who that moment may impact. We don't know who that could be. Maybe that's the next Steve Jobs or the Bill Gates. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I believe we have to be hopeful and faithful enough to believe it's possible.
Hopefully it's in the Jerome Cox.
You are an amazing guy. I've got to tell you, you're an amazing guy. I knew your brother, but I didn't know
He's
you.
a wonderful man. Well, he was my oldest brother, Representative Kenny Ray Cox, is my mentor. That's like my father, because we didn't grow up with a father, and he was such a impactful guy. This guy ends up becoming a lieutenant. That's why we went to the military behind him.
Yeah.
Because I saw a path, and he's an amazing human being, and he's a much better guy than me. He's the real
I don't
deal.
know about that, but I think you're both pretty amazing, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Absolutely.
So
how do kids find out about this? Is this a week-long camp in the summer? How does this project work?
We're developing that process right now, because we're finishing all of the structural and infrastructure things. But our intent is that we would like to have it where people can come out, and it can be at least a 3 or 4 day event where the children come out, because we got a swimming pool, we got all of this stuff out here where kids can do activities, ride horses and all of that. But And the good news is we want to do it without having to have a burden of expense to these children. That's
So if some kids or adults even want to get in touch with you or talk to you about a job or some of the services you provide, how do they do that?
yes, you can reach us at area code 318.
He's got a phone number.
Nobody has a phone number anymore, man. You got to have a website.
Well, you actually.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead with the
Well,
phone.
you could.
People
Yeah,
can
you
run
could
it
go.
back and listen.
The website. Where if we have an email account, unfortunately all of our inner workings don't require all of this. Our referrals don't come from a bunch of people. It comes from hospitals and businesses. You know what I mean? And as that's what's key about building your business. Make it where it's self-sustaining, where you're not having to have all of this outside to help you be productive. You need to build an inside corridor that allows you to work within, and all of the inner workings allow you to be productive here and there, and this business help that business and all that. And it also can't always be about money. Can't always be about money.
Yeah, go ahead and finish that phone
But
number.
anyway,
phone number?
the phone number is area code 318-236-9000.
236-9000.
That's correct.
And they can get in touch with you. Or
They can call that number. You can get in contact with us, or you can actually. Our email is drcox care@gmail.com.
Say that again.
drcox care@gmail.com.
All right. Very good.
Dr. Cox, we care.
At gmail.com. Yes, sir.
Man, this has been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much.
It really
It's
has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
What a thrill.
Thank
Told
sir.
you.
Yeah, you were.
Come on,
you
man.
weren't kidding me, man.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Jerome.
thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
and thank you for joining us for this podcast of Good to Know Shreveport Bossier, brought to you by the Committee of 100 and KTBS TV. Remember to tell your friends and colleagues about this podcast. We'll have new content every other Wednesday morning. And for more information, you can check us out at goodtoknowsb.com. So have a good day. Let's
318.
Yeah, no. We have a website here. Let's all continue to make Shreveport Bossier the best it can be, and all of this is good to know.